let me ask you what Austin was just talking about. You're a player. Let's go back to, let's just say you're a player right now. You're a player in that locker room. They announce Urban Meyer's the head coach. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you uh-oh? What would be your reaction?
I mean, I'd be excited because everywhere Urban's been, you've had success, right? He's a program builder. Now he's never done it in the NFL, and there's a saying for college coaches. Well, Pete Carroll said this in his book that when you coach in college, you can recruit 15 first-rounders, which we've seen Urban Meyer do at Florida. We've seen it at Ohio State. We even saw it at Utah, to be honest with you, with Alex Smith. In the NFL, you get 1 or 2 first-round picks, right? So you don't get the chance to recruit. You can't turn a program around as fast in the National Football League as you can in college. But Urban's been successful everywhere he's gone. And so I think that's what gets all the fans excited is that, look, he left Florida, or he went to Florida. Florida won national championships, successful first-round picks all over the place. They were winning everything. Leaves there, does TV for a little bit, goes to Ohio State. National championship, Zeke Elliott, all these, like, they start putting out guys left and right. Marcus Lattimore, all these guys start coming out. So he can identify talent. He understands what talent looks like. I just don't think it'll be turned around as quickly as when he comes to, obviously if he's the coach for the Jaguars. I understand where Austin is talking about because if you look at Eric Bieniemy's track record, and he was a coach of mine. He was my running back coach in college. But before me, he had Chris Brown, who played for the Houston Texans, who was up for the Heisman at Colorado. Then he had, Adrian Peterson at Minnesota. He had Chester Taylor at Minnesota. He's coached some of the better running backs in the game. And then he becomes the OC, and all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes wins Super Bowl MVP and league MVP in the 2 years he's coached them. So he has a track record of success as well, but he has a track record of success in the National Football League. And so I think there's a lot of coaches out there that you can go from. I know Bieniemy and Urban Meyer are the top two. But as a player, I'd be excited for anyone that comes in because it's a breath of fresh air. But you don't know what you get until you get that coach. You don't know how that coach is going to be. You don't know if it's going to be very similar to what you've had or if it's going to be complete opposite. Mo, and we don't know if it's complete opposite if it's going to be successful.
Mo, it's great to hear from you, man. And you mentioned it yourself. Eric Bieniemy is a big name right now, and you had him as a running backs coach. And I'm sure, obviously his philosophy has probably changed a little bit back, I think, was it in 2005 when he was there coaching you? So it's I've known him since I've been 17. So
he's definitely changed since then.
Okay, I got you. So he's obviously changed. He's adapted like any good coach should. What type of coach would teams be getting in terms of personality, in terms of demeanor, if Eric Bieniemy was indeed their head coach, do you think?
Oh, well, first and foremost, everyone's going to be held accountable. It doesn't matter how good you are as a player, how bad you are as a player, how good you are as a person. He's going to hold you accountable. And I can give you a great example. I just turned, it might have been my sophomore or junior year, and I was the oldest running back in the room. And, before I was old, obviously I was a freshman, and if any of us got in trouble, we all would have to we'd all have to run or roll or whatever it might have been. And I didn't know that whoever the oldest person was before me, it was Manuel White, who played for the Washington Redskins at the time, now the football team. It didn't matter what someone did younger. We all got punished, and he forced us to really police ourselves, if that makes sense, right? So as I became older, one of my roommate missed a treatment or something, and we all had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and he made us roll because of him. And it forces you to police your locker room. So I don't know if he'll be able to do that in the National Football League or not, but I'm sure he's adapted to make people hold each other accountable. But those are the little things that you have to do as a coach. And so for me, I think you're going to get a guy has a high football IQ, played in the National Football League for 9 years. He can relate to everyone in the locker room, from the quarterback or to the janitor. He's a guy that's very detailed in his work. One of the reasons, and Austin, you never saw this, but I used to have notebooks on top of notebooks for each game, right? So each game we'd have we'd have a notebook to write our notes down in each game.
Sure.
Every 2 or 3 games, I'd have a whole new notebook because he taught me to be detailed in everything that I did. Not just the playbook, but having a notebook of understanding the D coordinator, what he likes to do in certain situations. So when I left Jacksonville and I went to Oakland to play, I actually played against Wade Phillips. And I knew in certain situations from the time I was detailed in Jacksonville when we played him for the Texans that in crucial situations he wants to go cover zero. And he has a tree of defensive coordinators that abide by that rule. And so I was able to use notebooks from back then to utilize my last year in the NFL to help me play faster. And so he's a teacher on top of that, right? So now you have a guy that's going to hold people accountable. He can relate to everyone. He's a teacher. And he's going to teach guys how, concepts, how to be a better football player, the different techniques, all those little things. And then last but not least, he's brutally honest. And I think as an athlete, as a professional athlete, that's what you want. Tell me what I can do. Tell me if I'm doing what you want me to do. And if I can't, I understand that you'll have to find someone else to do it. But don't tell me I'm doing a great job and then behind closed doors say, oh, I can't work with this guy.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Without a doubt. That's huge.
And so I believe that when you're getting Eric Bieniemy, you're getting those 4 qualities, and those are the best qualities in a head coach. Because and Brent, we've talked about this. I don't know if you know this, Austin, but I always blow Brent up on Twitter.
So I've heard.
I blow him up. I do it all caps too because Brent's my guy, and we've had a great relationship. I've been there, and I've been able to confide in him certain things, and he's a great person. But a head coach is not a coach anymore. You become a manager of expectations and personalities and situations. That's what you become. And so you do less coaching as a head coach and you do more managing. And so he's been able to manage some of the bigger personalities in the National Football League. Adrian Peterson, big personality. A Jamal Charles, big personality. You see him on the sidelines with his back and forth with Travis Kelce, big personality, right? And yet those guys will go to war for him because he holds them accountable. He's not going to allow Travis Kelce to not go out there and block on a run play. If he I've had conversations with him. He told me if Travis Kelce doesn't block, he doesn't catch a pass. Period. We'll pull him out on pass plays then. That is holding people accountable and forcing the best, forcing the best out of them at every play.
Maurice Jones-Drew with us here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Hey, awesome stuff, by the way, on Eric Bieniemy, who reportedly did interview with the Jaguars today. He's on everybody's list except for, crazily enough, the Houston Texans, who many people thought he would be going to in the middle of the season when they made a coaching change. But awesome stuff on Eric Bieniemy. Now let's ask you about Trevor Lawrence. He declares for the 2021 NFL Draft.
Well, hang on.
Hey, don't worry about this.
No, he's got to worry about it, Brent, because here's the thing. Well, all right, so I'm not sure if you saw it, but I actually made a little video thing regarding the Avengers, and it was basically the entire Jacksonville media rallying around against the national media and saying, we're not going to take the slander, we're not going to take the hate, we're in this together. And I included you in there because I thought we're all on the same page here. We're getting Trevor Lawrence, everything's going to be hunky-dory, and then behold my surprise. When I include you in the video and a couple days later, Mo, you say that Trevor Lawrence may not be the #1 pick.
I'm not saying that he's not the number 1 pick. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying was make sure you do all your homework, right? Don't just say, he played well as a freshman at Clemson. He won a national championship. He's only lost 2 games. He's the lock #1 pick. You never do that. You never just do that. You make sure that you dive in and you do your film study on the left tackle from Oregon. You make sure you do your film study on the top defensive player. You make sure you do the film study on all the quarterbacks. It may be, hey, and at the end of the day, as much as as a lot of people love Trevor Lawrence, maybe whoever that head coach is doesn't like him. And so maybe that isn't the first pick for the Jaguars, right? It needs to be a fit with the coach and the quarterback because guess what? When you draft a quarterback as the first overall pick, if you look at it across the league where, Jameis Winston or, a high pick, even Blake Bortles, for example, for the Jags, you are tied at the hip with that guy as a coach and as a GM. And so you want to make sure – you just don't want to go in and say, hey, you know what, we know this is the guy, this is going to be the guy. You want to make sure you do your due diligence and you find out, okay, is this the guy we're going to, put the livelihood of our organization in his hands? And it may be. But I'm just saying pump your brakes, slow down. Let's not just be hey, because, again, all of Jacksonville media is you're crazy. He's the guy. He's done this. He's the best thing since John Elway, Andrew Luck. But my concern is he's never played in the NFL. He's played on a team that has been the top recruited team for the last 10 years. He's played with a ton of talent. And when you're going to if you're the #1 pick, the team that you're playing on is not going to be as talented as it was in college. And so all I'm saying is
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is just do your due diligence. That's it.
Yeah, and by the way,
he still may be the number one pick.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Listen, I asked this question to Austin a couple weeks ago. I said, are we in love with Trevor Lawrence, or are we in love with the idea of Trevor Lawrence and the fact that he's the number one pick and the Jags now have the number one pick? And so I think that's kind of what you're saying in essence. It's not that Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy. It's just that make sure you vet all these other guys and just don't feel compelled to necessarily take Trevor Lawrence because everybody's talking about him. Although it does feel, the more you read and see and everything else, the guy's the real deal. Let me ask you this, Mojo. You've played, obviously been around quarterbacks much like Austin. What are you looking for then? What are you trying to find out when you meet with this guy at the Combine, his pro day? Because you've seen enough tape. You know what that is. But what are you trying to find out to just solidify the fact that Trevor Lawrence can be the guy for this franchise?
Okay, so two things real quick before I answer that one. One, when I study the tape of a guy, I would rather take a quarterback in college that does more with less. If you're a quarterback that you're throwing to first-round picks and they're wide open and they're creating separation in college, let's remember in the National Football League, the separation is going to be much smaller, right? It's not going to be as wide open, and it's not going to be like that. And so I'd rather take a quarterback that's done more with less. That's always been my thing. Like, give me a quarterback from the MAC that's throwing to guys that are 4th, 6th, 7th-round picks, but he's throwing for thousands of yards, right? Those are the more successful guys in our football league. Or if you have a guy, for example, I always go with Big Ben. The reason I feel like Big Ben is a success is because he was throwing for thousands of yards at Miami of Ohio.
Correct,
right?
Yeah. Well, and
so
even
when he gets to the
Josh Allen's a good example too, Mo. I think Josh Allen's a good example coming from Wyoming.
A great example. Tell me who got drafted from Wyoming when he was out. Like, you don't know that. But then you pair him with Stephon Diggs, all of a sudden the dude's one of the top passers in the National Football League. Like, you put talent around, all of a sudden his talent and everything, all the things that you saw, they show up. So that's one of my things with scouting a quarterback. Now, what I'm looking for from Trevor Lawrence when I meet with him, I need to know, first of all, I got to do all my duties, make sure you work hard, right? And I can teach you how to watch tape, and I can teach you how to do those other things. I can't teach you to be at the building at 5 a.m. every morning watching tape. I can't teach you doing that, right? I think that's one of the issues that the Washington football team had with Dwayne Haskins. Again, I don't know, but early on it was like he's not showing up early. He's not putting the work in. You got to, as a quarterback, you pretty much live at the facility. I remember, and Brent, I don't know if I ever told you, I remember as a rookie, Byron Leftwich grabbed me and said, hey, since you're going to be our third down back, you need to come in here. You need to be with me at 5:30 in the morning. We're going to watch tape and protection so you know what's going on each week. Because if you're going to protect me, I need you to be like this offensive line. They need to know the ins and outs. You need to know who you're blocking and why you're blocking them in these protections. Now, B. Left was doing that, in Jacksonville, but we were up at 5:30 every morning, Tuesday through Thursday. I told him I can't do it on Fridays because I need to get my rest for the game. But Tuesday through Thursday, we were up at 5:30 watching protection, studying the team against us. That you have to have that as a quarterback. That has to be in you. That can't be taught. All right? The other thing is leader of men. You have to be able to say, you know what? The guys in the locker room may say, hey, you know what? We don't want to practice today. You have to stand up and say, you know what? We are practicing today, and we are going to do what we have to do. But that has to be in you. You have to be a vocal leader. You have to do everything the right way. And so those are the things that you look for in a quarterback, and what I'd be looking for in Trevor Lawrence. All the physical attributes and all the things we see on tape, you're great. That's awesome. But now you're the number one pick. You're becoming the face of our franchise. You're becoming the leader of our organization. And everyone's going to take whatever you do, they're going to do that times 10. So if you're showing up late, guess what? Everybody's going to show up late. If you're showing up early and you're putting the work in, guess what? Everybody's going to show up early and put the work in. This is what happens. And so that's all. Again, it goes back to my point of making sure that you do your due diligence and that he does everything the right way. I don't know what he does because I haven't talked to him or anyone at Clemson. I'm sure he puts the work in. You don't win, that many games without putting the work in. But I want to make sure you do it the right way and the way it needs to be done.
I think that's fair enough, too. Go ahead, Austin.
Talking to Jaguars great here. Maurice Jones-Drew, an NFL Network analyst now. Mo, you said it yourself. Like, the guy's a winner. And I feel like when you hear, talking heads on the networks talk about Trevor Lawrence, or even us talk about, or even scouts talk about, is the guy's won wherever he's been. Do we put too much stake into the wins and losses? And as a former player and as a guy who shared the locker room with a lot of quarterbacks, like, do you think we put way too much stake in terms of, well, this guy's a winner wherever he went, he's gonna win in the NFL too? Like, should we stop kind of that narrative?
I don't think so, because the winning, and also that's one of the things that I did a horrible job at when I was in Jacksonville. And I think I told Uche this one time, like, since I've retired and I've got a chance to like look back at my career, I wish I would have challenged all of us to stay in Jacksonville and train our butts off together, right? Mm-hmm. I was a winner in high school. Never lost a game in high school. Went to UCLA, and we turned a program that went 6-6 my freshman year to 10-2, and we were ranked in the top 10 in the country my last year, right? And so when I got to Jacksonville, I was like, oh, we're going to turn this thing around like that. But I felt like I didn't do the things necessary to get everyone to buy in and help out. And so that's the biggest thing about when you have a winning quarterback, because we all know this. There's two the way you become a leader of the team. One, you're the starting quarterback, and two, whoever the highest paid player on the team is. Those are the leaders. Everyone does what those players do. And so, however, Trevor Lawrence has been a winner, just like Justin Fields has been a winner everywhere he's been. I mean, those two are tied at the hip. They were the same in high school. They've been the same in college. It's just kind of how it goes. But to me, when you win, how did you win? Was it because you were the more talented team in high school? Is that why you won? Was it because, or was it because you worked really hard and everyone bought in and everyone followed you and you led those men into battle, into some tough situations, and you rose up through adversity, right? In college, is it, you went to Clemson, you went to one of the top if not the top program in the country, like them in Alabama, right? Mm-hmm. When you hit some adversity, how did you fight through those things? Because in the National Football League, the one thing that's different than anywhere else in the National Football League, everyone's talented, everyone has dudes, mm-hmm. and you're going to go through some adversity, guaranteed. I don't care if it's a team that just won the Super Bowl. I'll give you a great example because I call the games for the Rams on radio. They went to the Super Bowl one year, the next year, and they lost. The next year, they didn't make the playoffs. So you're going to run through adversity throughout the course of your NFL career. Are you able to fight through that and lead these troops through? And that's what I think GMs and head coaches, when they see a winner, they assume that those things happen throughout your career. I hate to assume things. That's why I say you have to do your due diligence to make sure that when you're picking this first pick, is more than just how good is he on the football field. It's what is he? Has he been through adversity? How has he fought through adversity? What are some of the things that he's done to, get everyone to rally around when you have some adverse situations?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, too. And that's actually my number one thing. If I had a question to ask at the Combine in an interview setting or a dig up at Clemson, what is this guy going to do in reaction to losing? What if you lose more games in the first month of your NFL career than you did in your entire college career? The guy hasn't lost much. And so I do think it's a fair question. I want to know, how is he going to respond to adversity? I think it's a great point. Hey, we got to let you run in just a couple moments, but I got to do some rapid fire with you. I bet you're proud of Tony Baselli getting to be a finalist once again. Hopefully this is the year. But what's your frustration level about your good buddy Fred Taylor still not getting enough momentum and consideration for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's definitely it is frustrating, because when you look at what Fred's done against the guys that have been in the Hall of Fame, like, he's dominated them. I mean, I remember playing against Urlacher. I remember playing against other guys with him, and Fred has played lights out against those guys. Against some of the top defenses, Fred has played well against. I just think that, early on, before like social media, before all these other things where everyone had like a national market, Jacksonville wasn't that. And so a lot of people didn't see his games. You don't get to watch his highlights. But if you watch his tape, and again, we can't expect all the voters of the Hall of Fame to watch everyone's full career tape. But if you watch his tape, you'll know that he's definitely worthy of getting in there. I mean, I work with Terrell Davis. I work with LaDainian Thompson. Like, LT used to look up to Fred, right? I remember playing the Chargers and LT going up and saying something to Fred, right? Like, so those things, like, it sucks that he's not in there, because he definitely deserves it. But it's just one of those things that he has to keep fighting. Okay,
real quick, how much does Jalen Ramsey miss us since you're around the Rams?
Listen, I don't know if Jalen Ramsey misses you guys, but it sure thinks that the Jags miss Jalen Ramsey. He only gave it one touchdown this year?
Oh, it's insane, the numbers.
So he's pretty good.
It's
pretty good, I guess.
Go figure.
The funny thing is the crazy part is because when he came here, the Rams are like, what are we getting? I'm like, look, I just know if you put him on the number one receiver, he's not going to catch a pass. And literally, he's done that. I think Stephon Diggs caught the only touchdown, but he had 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. That was on a 2-yard line where he ran like a back-end line late and caught a pass from Josh Allen. Like, Jalen's serious. But, things happen and people move on, and the Jags got a really good corner in Henderson, so hopefully he works out for him.
Yeah. Not that good. Not Jalen Ramsey type. Okay, one more for me, then one more for Austin. Appreciate your time. Maurice Jones-Drew here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Hey, it looked like they really rallied around John Wolford, Jacksonville kid. I haven't seen anything out of L.A. I don't know what's going on with Goff and Wolford for this weekend, but that was a great performance by him. You got to call the game.
Yeah, well, so it's funny. I called his first game in the AAF, too, and when I got a chance to meet with him, he was like, I watched you when I was in Jacksonville, and I didn't know he was from Jacksonville at the time. And I was like, oh, man. And so you knew he had the ability to make all the throws. You knew he was going to struggle a little bit because it's your first NFL game. Like, no matter if you say, I'm just going to go out there and play, you're going to have nerves. The first pass he throws is intercepted. But once he started getting comfortable and got in the flow of the game, he started running a little bit. You saw the offense just kind of take off. And they moved the ball up and down the field, and the defense rallied around them. And I think the defense scored 9 points, and the Cardinals scored 7. So that tells you how good that defense is. But they're going to need a little bit more from the offense this week. And no one really knows. Like, Jared had thumb surgery 2 Mondays ago. They don't know if he'll be able to play on Saturday or not. But the good thing is you have a quarterback that has experience, and you can go up there and win. Your team is really good, and they match up well against the Seahawks.
I got one last question. This question is out of just pure curiosity because I've always wanted to ask somebody that's close to the Rams. Obviously, it doesn't get better than you, Mo. To me, the Rams as a team, they're an enigma. And the reason why I say that is because if I name any team in the NFL, I can tell you who that star of that team is. When we talk about the L.A. Rams, we talk about Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Sean McVay, and maybe Jared Goff because he plays the quarterback position, obviously. In your opinion, who's the biggest star of that team, and who's the most talked about player in that city?
Well, I mean, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, they're the most talked about, but the biggest offensive star is probably Robert Woods. Him or Cooper Kupp, to be honest with you. Those two, I mean, they're both number one receivers. They just don't get a lot of credit for it. But Robert Woods, and you know this, Austin, I remember in 2011, we weren't having the best season, but our receivers were out there blocking like fullbacks out there.
Absolutely.
Right? And I appreciate the news for that.
Yeah.
Robert Woods, he blocks like that. He runs the ball, is one of the best route runners they have, and goes across the middle all the time to catch the ball. Cooper Kupp does the exact same thing. They have plays where they pull their receiver and they lead block up the hole for the running back, right? So This is it's an unselfish team, and they're very talented. And again, like I feel like, and this is just my opinion, when they're playing well on offense, they can beat anybody in the National Football League except for the 49ers. But that's neither here nor there. But they match up well with all the teams, and we'll see how things go. But if they don't turn the ball over on offense, they might be like 13-3, 14-2 right now. But they've had some horrible games where they turned the ball over 5 or 6 times, 4 or 5 times in games, and it's cost them. So we'll see how. They're the matter of fact. I'm gonna give you a stat here. They're the only team to make the playoffs that's turned the ball over in every game this year. Crazy, right?
Stat.
Interesting.
Great stat.
But they have the number 1 scoring defense in the National Football League, and that's why they're able to do that.
Wow.
So,
yeah, they're in every game. They can make up for some mistakes,
football.
No doubt about it. Maurice Jones-Drew. Hey, by the way, Robert Woods, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. He went to the same high school at the same time as Marquise Lee, former Jags receiver. And you bring up that Byron Leftwich story. The most underrated part of Maurice Jones-Drew's game is blocking ability, picking up protection. So there you go. Byron Leftwich should get some credit for that.
I saw the Sean Merriman highlight when I was in high school. Not very underrated, but okay.
That's good. That's true. That is a special highlight.
Yeah. Come on now.
All right, Maurice Jones-Drew, keep blowing up my phone, man. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, hey, and make sure you guys pass a note over to Shad that I'm willing to come and consult if he needs to. Go Jags.
That train has not left
They
the
could use
station.
them.
Yeah, that train will never leave the station. I won't let it. So we're good to go.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it. Good spending time with Maurice Jones-Drew. We could have spent a whole